And just like that, the 2024 NFL Draft has come to a close. Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. I'm your host, Bubbs. Today is Saturday, April 27th. Hopefully everybody is enjoying their weekend so far. It was another packed day full of the NFL Draft. Rounds 4 through 7 happened today, and rounds 4 through 7 have since concluded. The New York Jets were very active this afternoon, and we have now finally got the 2024 New York Jets draft class after all of the months, all of the mock draft, the 3 days, night number 1 on Thursday, night 2 obviously last night on Friday, and then day number 3 this afternoon. 257 picks in the books. The New York Jets make the last one, making Jaylen Key Mr. Irrelevant. We'll get to that a little later on. The Jets also made 4 trades today, 3 involving picks, 1 involving a player as they move JFM to the Denver Broncos. So after dealing Zach Wilson to the Broncos earlier this week, JFM will now join him as the 2 teammates will head to Denver together. We'll discuss that move, my thoughts. It is a very, I guess if you want to call it controversial, questionable move around the Jets fan base that has sparked up some debates as whether it was a good move, smart move, bad move. You kind of understand why the Jets did it. They kind of had to do it. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is. It's the business side of the sport, and the New York Jets have to move on from JFM, who, of course, has been a very solid Jet, earned a second contract. He will now land with the Denver Broncos. So we'll get to that a little later on. This is episode 301 of the In the Trenches with Gang Green podcast. I thank you as always for listening on all the different podcast platforms, and as always watching here on YouTube. I can't tell you how much I appreciate all the support. The last couple days has been awesome to see all you guys in the comments, watching the videos. It's been great. Social media, all that great stuff. It's been a lot of fun. Love covering the draft. Drafts, one of my favorite events of the year in all of sports, really. The draft's always a blast, even just as a football fan, not only seeing what your team's going to do, your favorite team, in this case, of course, the Jets are going to do, but obviously what the rest of the 32 NFL teams are going to do. It's always a lot of fun. It's always exciting, always keeps you on the edge of your seat. And just like that, it's over. So we're going to recap day number 3 today. We'll also kind of take a look at the New York Jets draft class as a whole, but they started today with a plethora, just a crazy amount of trades. It was kind of a wild start to the day for the New York Jets, where you knew yesterday they were probably going to trade up. They ended up doing that, trading up to pick number 65 to get the dynamic Yak King and Malachi Corley out of Western Kentucky. They moved up 7 spots for him with the Carolina Panthers. And in today, you were kind of wondering, all right, they've got the 3 fourth-round picks. They've still got some more flexibility. Could they go after another receiver? Could they, look more towards a safety, maybe more defense today because they went offense in the first, 2 days, round 1 in Fashanu, round 3 with Malachi Corley, and that wasn't the case. They completely threw us off today. The first trade happened with the Green Bay Packers, where the New York Jets gave up their 2024 fourth-round pick, number 11. They got a 2024 fourth-round pick, number 126, and a 2024 sixth-round pick, 190. Then they made another trade with the Detroit Lions. Now, this all happened before Braelon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin, was even taken. They then moved back again with the Detroit Lions. Lions received the Jets' fourth-round pick, 126 overall. The Jets received a 2025 third-round pick next year. So not even a pick that helps them this year, instead next year. I actually don't mind that value. I thought the Packers trade was a lot more questionable. This kind of felt like Douglas was more looking towards the future with this deal. He wasn't over, though. After that, they made another trade, this time with the San Francisco 49ers. Jets gave the Niners their 2024 fourth-round pick, 129th overall. The Jets got a fifth-round pick this year and a fifth-round pick as well this year, 173, 176, which they ended up making both of those picks. So before the Jets even drafted a player this afternoon, they made 3 trades with 3 teams in the NFC: the Green Bay Packers, the Detroit Lions, and the San Francisco 49ers. Another trade in April with the Green Bay Packers. Of course, last year was the Aaron Rodgers trade. This year now it's much, much more minor trade, dealing some late round picks. But they ended up making a pick. You were kind of thinking there as a Jet fan, are the Jets even going to select a player today? Or are they just going to have are they going to make 3-4 more trades and call it a day, not even take a Mr. Irrelevant and just move on? And we're going to be looking at this draft class of Olu Fashanu and Malachi Corley and call it a day. That wasn't the case, though. After those trades, they did end up taking Braelon Allen. Round 4, pick 134, Braelon Allen, running back out of Wisconsin. I really like this pick. I've talked about him a couple times on the podcast through a couple different mock draft Mondays. Another show I also do here on the channel, Inside the Huddle. We were discussing Braelon Allen as well as a really solid running back, a guy that, look, you can always trust Wisconsin running backs to come out and produce. You, of course, got some guys like Jonathan Taylor. Melvin Gordon has had a very good career. You've even got James White, who has put together a nice career. So history tells us Wisconsin running backs usually pan out pretty well. He's 6'1", 235 pounds. This dude is a monster. He is a beast of a human being for a running back, and he fits perfectly for what the New York Jets need. For a little while now, this Jet team, this front office has been looking for a number 2 alongside Breece Hall. In year number 1, they tried it with Michael Carter. It didn't work out. He had a major drop-off after his rookie year in 2022. Breece Hall was great in 2022. Michael Carter was not. Breece Hall goes down. The running core disappeared. They obviously ended up bringing in James Robinson. None of it worked. You go into last year, they draft Izzy Abanaconda. They also bring in Dalvin Cook during training camp. Cook, of course, was a disaster. Izzy Abanaconda barely played. And you also had Michael Carter in there as well. He was released, signed by the Cardinals middle of the year. So really, you ended up with a running back room that, similar to 2022, was Breece Hall and nobody. Last year, it was Breece Hall and nobody. So you entered into this offseason, with an unproven Izzy Abanaconda and Breece Hall. And you knew the Jets right around this area, 4th round, 3rd round, 5th round, right around this area. You knew they were going to take a running back. Braelon Allen, I thought, was a really good value pick here. I think it's exactly where you kind of expected him to land. And it's awesome. He's a very good running back out of Wisconsin, and he provides exactly what the Jets have been looking for the last couple years and exactly what they need. Breece is a do-it-all guy. They need that third down back, that big, physical, downhill runner, 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, picks up the yards and some more and does the job. How many times over the last couple years have we seen this Jets team fail in short yardage situations, fail as running backs, sometimes even a pass protect? Braelon Allen is a much better pass protector than Izzy Abanaconda. I think that's also a reason why the Jets look down this road. He runs a 4.440. He runs a 4.440, and he's 6'1", 235 pounds, which is just nuts. It's crazy how athletic he is. It's crazy of just a monster he is. He trains with Derrick Henry, so it's not too surprising the size of him. Tough to bring down, physical, exactly what you want to see in a third down back. He had back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons in 2021 and 2022. He had 984 yards last year in 2023. A little bit of a down year. Part of that, though, was with the system. In Wisconsin, they used him in a little bit of a different way, which didn't really play to his strengths. So it really wasn't him. It was more so the coaching staff and the system that they implemented. He had 3,494 career rushing yards, which ranks 9th most in Wisconsin history. To have your name among some of the best in Wisconsin history is a pretty high honor, considering Wisconsin has had some great college running backs. Some of them, of course, putting good NFL careers together. This is also wild. He's reached the end zone 35 times. He had 35 career rushing touchdowns. That's 4th most in the FBS since 2021. He, of course, was a freshman in 2021. Since 2021, he has 1,400. Well, since 2021, he had 35 career rushing touchdowns, which was the 4th most in FBS. Since 2021, his 1,493 rush yards up the middle are 2nd best in the FBS, only behind Blake Corum. He's the youngest player in this draft. He's only 20 years old. He'll be 21 next January. This is a guy that's only 20 years of age, which I think has to get you a little bit more excited too as a Jet fan, because he's going to have a lot room. He's got some room to grow, and he's young. So he's going to have time to grow. He's going to have time to learn. It's not like he's 23, 24 and kind of already in where he should be, already ramping up, entering the prime of his career. No, he's 20 years old. He's going to have a lot of time under his belt to learn and grow. So Braelon Allen was the pick here in round 4. I think if you're a Jet fan, you've got to be happy about it. He had a very, very successful career, Wisconsin, a monster, physical, tough to bring down. He feels like if Malachi Corley was a running back, if Malachi Corley was bigger and a running back, that's kind of what Braelon Allen is. Physical, downhill runner, third down back, should pair really nicely next to Breece Hall in this Jets backfield. So you move on now to the 5th round. Round number 5, pick 171, Jordan Travis, quarterback, Florida State. We were wondering all off season, what were the New York Jets going to do in the draft when it came to quarterback? Was it going to be Michael Pratt? Was it going to be Spencer Rattler? Was it going to be Jordan Travis? Was it going to be Joe Milton? Was it going to be those guys. All the guys I mentioned. Who was it going to be for the New York Jets at quarterback? And they found their answer. It's Jordan Travis. And I think you can make a really, really strong case that Jordan Travis, out of the 3 or 4 mid-round quarterback picks, I think you can make a strong case that Jordan Travis was the best out of all of them. Even like the Devin Learys of the world and some of the other names out there. Travis, it has to get you really, really excited if you're a New York Jet fan in round number 5. He's 6'1", 200 pounds. This was a guy that was one of the best quarterbacks in college football last year. Unfortunately, he suffered the season-ending awful ankle injury, broken ankle, ended his season, ended his college career short, was having a phenomenal season. If he never went down, there's a good chance Florida State maybe goes on and wins a national championship. So you would even view Jordan Travis in a completely different light. Now, he is on the older end. He'll be 24 in just a couple days here, May 2nd. He's been in college football since 2018. He played 6 years, 1 in Louisville and 5 in Florida State. So he is a little bit on the older end, but he gets the chance to now sit behind Aaron Rodgers, sit behind Tyrod Taylor, a quarterback room that has so much experience, and learn and watch and not even have to worry about playing. And I'll admit, as a New York Jet fan, as much as we were excited the night Sam Darnold was drafted, and as much as we were excited the night Zach Wilson was drafted, as a Jet fan, I kind of feel refreshed. I kind of feel really happy knowing that Jordan Travis, if everything goes as planned, won't see the field for at least 2 years. Assuming Rodgers plays 2 more seasons, he won't see the field in terms of actually as a starter, regular season, being the guy in at least 2 seasons. And that's refreshing. Finally, the New York Jets are taking a quarterback in the 5th round. He's got a ton of upside. He's got some stuff to work on, no doubt. That's why he is a 5th round pick. But you've seen what Jordan Love was able to do in Green Bay in year number 1. He made a lot of throws, a lot of things that Aaron Rodgers did all those years in Green Bay. Very Aaron Rodgers-esque plays from Jordan Love. I'm not saying Jordan Travis, they got the same name. I'm not saying Jordan Travis is going to be Jordan Love in year number 1. But you've got to feel really, really good about the possibility of maybe this finally being the time that the New York Jets get their quarterback. He's got a ton of talent. He was a monster last year. It was awful for college football. It was awful for Florida State. It was awful for him to see him go down. He had 20 touchdowns and just 2 interceptions last season. This is a guy that does not turn the ball over much. He had 2,756 yards. This was a guy that was on his way to doing special things, potentially leading Florida State to a national championship. He's got a ton of talent. Finished last year with completing 63.9% of his passes. I mentioned the yards, mentioned the touchdowns and picks, 80.1 QBR, a 154.5 passer rating. In his career, he has 66 touchdowns to just 20 interceptions, 150.6 quarterback rating, 8,715 yards, and a 62% completion percentage. Perfect guy to sit behind Aaron Rodgers. You can make the case him and Rattler were probably the top. Michael Pratt, I thought it was going to be Pratt just because I didn't know if I just felt like that was kind of the direction the Jets were going in. And it was also for the last like 2-3 mock draft Monday episodes that I've done, everything I did, I got Michael Pratt in all of them. So part of it was just like I kept getting Michael Pratt in the mock draft simulators, and I know those aren't that accurate, but I just felt like, okay, they're telling me something. I thought it was going to be Pratt. When I saw Rattler fall into the 5th round, I was thinking, okay, maybe it's Rattler, but he ended up going to New Orleans. But Jordan Travis has got to get you excited. I think, unfortunately, a lot of people, I think, forget how good he was last year prior to getting hurt. And he needs some seasoning. That's why he's a 5th round pick, but he sits behind a Hall of Famer. You've seen how much Rodgers was able to wear off on Jordan Love. And now you've got to be excited to see that possibility with Travis. Look, I'm not saying Jordan Travis is the guy. Maybe the Jets finally find their guy in Jordan Travis, but he was the ACC Player of the Year last year, ACC Offensive Player of the Year, first team All ACC. He finished 5th in the Heisman Trophy voting. This was a guy that, if he never got hurt, probably wins the Heisman. There's a good chance you can make the argument he probably wins it over Jaden Daniels, who went 2nd overall. He's a special player. And the Jets got him in the 5th round. Jordan Travis, sitting behind Rodgers and Tyrod, not have to worry about playing, holding a clipboard, not getting thrown into the fire. You can just kind of sit back as a Jet fan. He doesn't have much pressure on him. He's a 5th round pick. Let's see. Maybe this is finally, I keep saying it, all these years of, having bad seasons and looking forward to the draft and trading up to get, into the Darnold position and, having the number 2 overall pick after going 2-14 with, Gaze and getting Zach, like all those years, maybe this is finally the time. All it took was a 5th round pick. Maybe now it is. Let's hope. Okay. So now we move on 2 picks later, round number 5. Jets made 5 picks in round number 5, or 3 picks rather in round number 5. This was the 2nd of 3. Isaiah Davis, running back out of South Dakota State. We talked about this guy, I think 2 or 3 times. I talked about him in our mock draft Monday segments that we did here throughout the mock draft season, I guess, if that's what you want to call it. Isaiah Davis, running back out of South Dakota State. I was a little confused with this pick, I'll be honest, at first. It's not that I don't like it, but I was a little confused. After drafting Braelon Allen, you got your 3rd down back. You got your perfect pairing next to Breece, that physical downhill, just monster of a human being type back. I was a little confused at this pick. I was surprised the Jets went back to running back. But then again, this is kind of what Douglas has done. You look at every single Joe Douglas draft, he's taken a running back later in the later rounds, like literally every single season. You go back to, the P. Ryan, of course, Breece, Michael Carter. You've got now Braelon Allen. You've got Izzy last year. You now got Isaiah Davis. So he's done it every season. So it's not too surprising. But what this does tell me is it's going to be one of the main stories in training camp. Before I even get into what Isaiah Davis brings to the table, it's going to be one of the main stories in training camp. It's going to be the battle between Isaiah Davis and Izzy Abanikanda for that 3rd running back spot. Braelon Allen, I think, is locked in as the number 2. Breece, of course, being your lead guy. And I think that's going to be an exciting battle between Davis and Izzy. And look, it's the NFL. I've seen some people on Twitter saying, the Jets aren't giving Izzy a chance, all this different stuff. It's the NFL. Izzy Abanikanda last year, I thought I liked him coming out of college. I mean, he needed to work on a lot of stuff, but he wasn't very good in the games he played. I know he got minimal opportunities, but he didn't do a whole lot with the ball in his hands, and was very, very poor in pass protection. I think that's what the Jets are trying to improve here in, is pass protection with both Davis and Braelon Allen, something that Izzy really struggles with. Now, this also might not quite signal that Izzy is going to have to compete for that 3rd job. Maybe they bring in Davis and they like one of those 2 guys as a special teams guy. We know how much the Jets value special teams. We'll have to see once they get these guys in, once camp gets going. But it is an interesting story. After feeling like all the Jets needed was running back, clearly this front office, I think this shows you that clearly this front office maybe doesn't have as much trust in Izzy, or feels that Izzy hasn't quite developed to what they thought he would develop into when they drafted him last year. And now they go back to the well with 2 running backs in back-to-back rounds. Now, when you look at Davis, 6 foot, 218 pounds, not as big as Braelon Allen, but a similar type of kind of that third down type back. When you look at him in terms of NFL terms, he's 22 years old, just turned 22 back in February. Played 4 years at South Dakota State. Was very successful. You look at this guy's numbers, they're crazy. Now, I know it's an FCS school. I understand that, but you can't take away from him. His numbers in college were wild. I mean, this was a guy that in 2023 had 1,578 rushing yards, 236 carries, and 18 touchdowns. I mean, those numbers are they're crazy, and look, he's a 5th-round pick. I'm not saying he's the next Curtis Martin for the Jets, right? We don't need him to be. We got Brees, right? He's going to be their 3rd running back probably at best, but you look at the numbers, it kind of gets you excited. Like, these numbers are crazy. I mean, he had 50 touchdowns in his college career. He had 50 touchdowns. And, in total, and again, we talked about what he was able to do last year with the 1,578 yards, 50 touchdowns, had the back-to-back 1,000-yard seasons, good physical downhill runner. He's got a lot of potential. I remember talking about him with the mock draft, just the numbers fly off the charts. The numbers are crazy to see those touchdowns, to see the yards that he was able to put up both last year and throughout his entire college career. So we'll see how they use him, what they do with Izzy and Davis, but it's definitely something to keep an eye on because they do value special teams. Is one of them kind of more of a special teams guy? Do they flat out, maybe move on from Izzy? I don't know. I mean, they could. It doesn't mean Izzy's time as a Jet's over, but I think that's going to be a good competition. It's going to be between the two. I will say, though, Brees, Braelon Allen, and Isaiah Davis would be a very intriguing running back room because they all complement each other really well. The numbers from Davis in college fly off the charts. I know the competition's completely different, but still, 1,500 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns is nuts. It's crazy. So, Jets go back-to-back here, 4th-round pick, running back, and then they go here with their 2nd pick in the 5th round, running back out of South Dakota State. And I will say this. If I had to guess, if they would to compete for that 3rd spot, I would probably say Davis wins. I would. Just didn't love what I saw at Izzy last year. And I think the Jets feel that same way. I think they were a little, I don't want to say surprised, but we're a little underwhelmed with what Izzy showed in minimal playing time last year in terms of his pass protection. Not much of a threat out of the backfield as a pass catcher. Not that Isaiah Davis really is. He only had 199 receiving yards last year and 23 receptions. So he's not much of a threat outside the backfield in that perspective. But the pass protection for Izzy is a problem. And talk about keeping Aaron Rodgers upright. It takes everybody, including the running backs. So we'll see. Now, this next pick here is an awesome story. And that's round 5, pick 176, the final pick here for the New York Jets in the 5th round. And that was Qwan'tez Stiggers, cornerback out of the Toronto Argonauts of the CFL. And he's 5'11", 203 pounds. And I'll be honest, I never heard of Stiggers. I never really did much. I never heard of him. This was the first time. I will be completely honest. You get honesty on the show. I've never heard of him. This was the first time I've ever heard of Qwan'tez Stiggers. I did not do any, film on him. Never saw any highlights on him. I didn't even know the Jets were even looking at him. But now that a couple hours have gone by, this is a guy that this fan base, this organization, it's going to be easy to rally around him. It is an incredible story with where he was a couple years ago to where he is now. And he's such an easy player to root for. And I think out of this entire class, while you want to see everybody succeed, this is going to be a guy that I think Jets fans are going to rally around, and Jets fans are going to be, I think, rooting for this guy the most. And that's not a knock on any of the other guys, but this is just the guy that everything he's been through at such a young age, to overcome it and get to where he is now, is just simply unbelievable. So he played football at high school, at Best Academy. He enrolled at Lane College. He was a 0-star recruit, got 0 offers. He got 1 offer from Lane College, which was a Division II school. He went there, ended up not playing football because he had to return home due to stress because his father passed away in September of 2020 due to injuries from a car accident that happened in February. So he had a tragedy with his father passing away. He didn't play football in 2021, and he was kind of it kind of seemed like for him, his days of football potentially could have been over. In 2022, he ended up entering the fan-controlled football league, also known as the FCF, as the youngest player in that league. It was a 7-on-7 indoor league in Atlanta. He was a defensive player of the year finalist. And then to try and make more money and expand himself and look to make more of a career out of football, he ended up going to the Canadian Football League in 2023. And that was last year. He won the most outstanding rookie. He tied for second in the CFL with 5 interceptions and started 16 games, had 56 tackles. He was a projected 5th-round pick. The Jets get him here in the 5th round, so kind of right where they expected him to land. And an incredible story. Hometown of Atlanta, Georgia, 5'11", 203 pounds, out of the CFL. This pick also made some history. It is the first CFL draft pick in NFL history. So this is definitely something that is made some history. The Jets made some history today with this pick as well. The Jets really like this guy. Like, aside from the story, aside from his background, they really like him. When Robert Saleh took over, and Joe Douglas, for that matter as well, took over, they talked about high characters guys that love football, guys that love winning, all that stuff. Like, guys that are just so engaged, ready to roll, all about the culture they're trying to instill. And I think that's what they like about Stiggers. This is a guy that he might not be the most talented player. He might not be the best player, but they know he's going to give everything he's got. They know all the adversity that he's been through. He's going to be able to take those experiences to the NFL. And I think that's something that New York, Saleh, this organization really values out of him. They also think that he can actually turn into something. Many people believe after seeing, because again, I never heard of this guy, so I'm not going to sit here and act like I've watched him. I never knew I didn't know who he was until this pick. But after seeing some tweets, after seeing people talk about him, he's got a lot of natural talent, but he needs a lot of work, right? He's coming from the CFL. He doesn't have never played college football. He played 1 year in the CFL, played 1 year in the Fan Control Football League, which was a 7-on-7 league. He doesn't have a ton of experience. He's taking a massive jump now going to the NFL. But he's got some natural talent. They like him. Like, there is talent there. There is abilities there. They need to mold him. They need to develop him. It's going to take some time. But Tony Oden and his coaching staff, they have their work cut out for him. Now, he is listed as a cornerback, and he was a cornerback in the CFL, but he can play safety, and the Jets will most likely probably convert him into a safety, which we've seen this team do a ton, whether it was Michael Carter taking him from kind of a corner safety hybrid and making him strictly a slot corner, whether it's like a Jarek Bernard Converse, he's kind of a corner safety hybrid. They like that. They like those type of players. Even, going back a little bit, you've seen guys where they've converted safeties into linebackers, whatever it's been. Jets kind of do that. And that's the same thing here. So, however he pans out, whatever he ends up doing as a New York Jet or with another team in the NFL, the fact that he got made all this, the fact that he got here with everything he's been through is a huge credit to him, a huge credit to his work ethic. And for Jets fans, we got to rally around this guy, because this was something that I don't think many of us saw coming, but it's a pick that I think, this fan base will rally around, and we'll see how it all plays out. And hey, look, it's good for him. He's entering a loaded secondary. He's entering a cornerback room that includes, now they probably will convert into a safety, but he's entering a secondary that includes veteran Chuck Clark, Sauce Gardner, Michael Carter II, and DJ Reed. So if there was a room for a guy that doesn't have much experience, for a guy that has been doubted and all that stuff, if there was a room for him to enter and learn and grow and develop, it would be the Jets, because of the talent that they've got back there. So Qwan'tez Stiggers, cornerback out of the CFL. Now we move on here to Mr. Irrelevant. Now, Rich Cimini, who covers the Jets for ESPN, of course, wrote an excellent article a couple weeks ago, maybe a week ago now, about the last Mr. Irrelevant pick in Jets history. You'd have to go all the way back to 1969. His name was Fred Zirkle. You now come fast forward to 2024, and you've got Jaylen Key, safety out of Alabama. He played free safety primarily last year. He's 6'1", 208 pounds, 24 years old. 4.6 40 yard dash. Developmental safety. Look, he's Mr. Irrelevant. History tells us, other than Brock Purdy, really, that Mr. Irrelevant don't always pan out. He did say in his intro video call that, he's gonna wear kind of that Mr. Irrelevant as a badge of motivation, kind of as a target on his back, which I like that mindset. Whether or not he'll ever actually turn into anything, the Jets do need some help in the safety room. So you add him to that room. You have now kind of a room that includes Chuck Clark, Tony Adams, Ashton Davis, Jarek Bernard-Converse, Jaylen Key. Whether or not maybe the Jets use some of the money that they got back in the JFM deal to maybe the Jets go out and get Justin Simmons. I don't know. He will have a chance to compete. He will have a chance to compete for a fourth safety spot. I don't know if he'll win it. Of course, UDFA still have to come through. There still is the rest of the offseason. But he comes in as a depth guy. He's Mr. Irrelevant. I wouldn't expect a whole lot. But, hey, Jaylen Key, safety. He will be the key to our success. How about that, Jets fans? 2023 had 60 total tackles, 1 pass defended, 1 interception at free safety under Saban. He played 4 seasons at UAB before transferring to Alabama, so 5 total years in college, 24 years old, so he is a little bit on the older side. He's Mr. Irrelevant. So the New York Jets were basically working from pick number 1 all the way to 257. And we'll see. We'll see what happens. What does Jaylen Key have in store for his NFL career? Is he Brock Purdy from the safety position? We'll see. But yeah, I was wondering where the Jets were going to go with the Mr. Irrelevant pick. It's always a very hyped up pick. History tells us he probably won't turn into a whole lot, but hey, Brock Purdy turned into something. Maybe we get something here in Jaylen Key. So that's the Jets draft class. Let's go through it one more time. Round 1, pick 11, Olu Fashanu, left tackle, Penn State. Round 3, pick 65, Malachi Corley, wide receiver, Western Kentucky. Round 4, pick 134, Braelon Allen, running back, Wisconsin. Round 5, pick 171, Jordan Travis, quarterback, Florida State. Round 5, pick 173, Isaiah Davis, running back, South Dakota State. Round 5, pick 176, Qwan'tez Stiggers, cornerback from the CFL. And in round 7, pick 257, Jaylen Key, safety, out of Alabama. He was also Mr. Irrelevant. So in total here, the Jets this year made 7 draft picks. 1 in round 1, 1 in round 3, 1 in round 4, 3 in round 5, and of course, Mr. Irrelevant in round number 7. Out of these 7 draft picks that the Jets made, 5 of them came on offense. You had an offensive lineman, you had a wide receiver, you had a running back, or 2 running backs, and you had a quarterback. As for defense, you had a cornerback, and you had a safety. Both of those happened with their last 2 picks. So 5 offense, 2 defense, both of those DBs, 2 running backs, a quarterback, a receiver, an offensive lineman. Douglas, we knew how to go offense. He did. Past years, that wasn't the case. This year's it was. Now, throughout this draft as well, because I love throwing out different numbers, different stats, different information. The New York Jets, they made 3 trades today. Technically 4 with JFM, so if you want to count that, that's 4. Plus the trade last night for Malachi Corley, and in the trade in round 1. So technically the Jets made 7 draft picks, 6 trades, including the JFM trade. And that's your 2024 draft class. So we'll see what happens. On paper, this already looks a lot better than what they were rolling out last year. I think this class has a lot more potential to do a lot more things. When you look at Fashanu, there's a good chance you have your left tackle of the future. When you look at Malachi Corley, you have an excellent gadget guy. You've got your number 2 running back behind Braelon Allen. Who knows? If you really want to get optimistic, maybe you find your franchise quarterback here in Jordan Travis. That's more of a wait and see thing. Now, to move on to the John Franklin Myers stuff, the Jets moved on from him today. They receive a 2026 6th-round pick from the Broncos. Broncos get JFM. So the Jets and Denver were doing business this week. Zach Wilson earlier in the week, and now John Franklin Myers. This doesn't come by much of a surprise if you're a New York Jet fan. JFM posted on Twitter a couple days ago, actually at the start of this draft, which made some fans wonder if maybe he was going to be dealt on round one and maybe some trade up scenario or something like that. But he posted on Twitter right before the draft started on Thursday. He tweeted out and said it was 7:55 on April 25th. So literally like 5-10 minutes before the draft was starting on Thursday night, he wrote, "Life's a trampoline. I'm going to bounce back regardless." And he posted 4 pictures of him as a New York Jet. All 4 happen to be, by the way, for those of you who care. I'm weird like this, but I know. All 4 of those happen to be the Week 17 debacle in Seattle in 2022 when the Jets had their playoff hopes still alive and they blew it and they got eliminated and went into Miami the next week with Flacco and lost. So for those who care, those are the 4 pictures he posted. Either way, he moves on. Jets move on. And as a Jet fan, this one stings. I'll be honest. JFM was a really, really solid Jet. Came here from the Rams. Has Douglas mentioned today, the only really thing you knew about him as a player was he got a sack in the Super Bowl for the Rams, of course. In 2018, they ended up losing that game. He comes to the Jets, has a very nice season in 2020, and then he breaks down in 2021, has 6 sacks, 35 tackles. He earns an extension, 4-year contract extension, so he leaves with 2 years left on that deal. And 4 seasons with the Jets, 4 very productive seasons. He had 17 and a half sacks in his career with the Jets, 81 career games played, including his first season with the Rams. When you look at the amount of games played with the Jets, he played 65 total games dating back to 2020 with the Jets. He only missed in his Jet career 3 games. He only missed 3 games, 2 in 2021 and 1 in 2020. And he hasn't missed a game since 2021. He played full seasons in 2022, played the full season last year. He was reliable. He was versatile. He showed the willingness to play inside, play outside, recently, and really did anything to help the team win. And it's not even just on the field. This was a guy that legitimately was a great locker room guy off the field as well. Was loved by his teammates, was a really good leader, was a big reason why that D-line room was so close and meshed so well. And it's unfortunate that you're dealing him. He's entering his, 6th season. He'll be 28 in September. Like, he's in the prime of his career. And I think that's what stings the most. This is a guy that's in the prime of his career, and you got to deal him due to salary cap issues. And that's what's frustrating is I believe it was Connor Rogers who tweeted out earlier today. I'll give him the credit here. This is like all the bad dead money that the New York Jets have on their cap that causes a good player like JFM to go. Let's look at some of the Jets right now that are causing this team, that are hurting this team in terms of dead cap. Laken Tomlinson, $10 million. Zach Wilson, $8 million. CJ Uzomah, $5 million. Well, to be exact, Tomlinson, $10.7 million. Zach, $8.4 million. CJ Uzomah, $5.9 million. Carl Lawson, $5.8 million. Dwayne Brown, $4.7 million. McCole Harmon, $2 million. And then Jordan Whitehead, skipped him, $3.3 million. Those 7 guys, none of them are on the Jets anymore. All of them were, Tomlinson was terrible. Zach Wilson was a bust. CJ Uzomah was terrible. Carl Lawson, after the torn Achilles, was never the same. Dwayne Brown was the reason Rodgers got hurt pretty much. Whitehead was serviceable. McCole Harmon was terrible. He was leaking game plans. All that dead money from all those guys. And that's why, unfortunately, a guy like JFM now has to go. Because you can't bring in a Hassan Reddick without having to move on from somebody else. Now, the thing that frustrates me the most with this trade is that it's also you're letting up a really good player. I wish the Jets, it felt like they, Douglas kind of made it seem like it was next to impossible to keep him, which I get it. But it feels like there wasn't much an attempt there. It kind of feels like once they traded Reddick, they basically, the last couple of weeks told, JFM, hey, man, we're going to have to move on from you. it feels like there wasn't much of an attempt there to keep him, unfortunately. But on top of that is like all they got was a 2026 sixth round pick for a guy in the prime of his career, has played 4 seasons with the team in the middle of a contract. All of that, trading him, getting him for a 2026 sixth. And this is a guy that's very underrated. I mean, he's underrated by the fan base. I mean, this is a big loss for the Jets. Like when Bryce Huff was gone, we knew we needed another edge rusher. They got that in Reddick, and now you feel like you're back to not where you were because Hassan Reddick's a monster, but now you're still one of those key player injuries away from all of a sudden being thin. I like, Michael Clemens, I think might be the most overhyped player amongst Jets fans. He's not that good. He's now going to get a bigger role. Will McDonald will also get a bigger role. So there is that perspective too of, hey, if Clemens is really what the Jets think he is, and Will McDonald he's got to play up to the 15th overall, billing, and he's also got to turn into, he's also got to take a Jermaine Johnson-esque leap this year. So I understand that aspect of it as well. Like, yes, John Franklin Myers is gone, but now it's time to, like, at this point, you can't baby Clemens and Will McDonald anymore. Like those, you drafted McDonald 15th overall. He's got to play up to the 15th overall pick. And while Clemens is, was a 4th round pick, the Jets love him for some reason. If they love him that much, he's got to start proving it. So it does come down to some of those young guys too. They got to play up to what they're expected, what they're said to be. So we'll see, but it's unfortunate. When you look at some of the numbers, last season, he was 3rd in total snaps with 598. This was among the New York Jets defensive linemen. He was tied for 2nd against tackles versus the run with 26, 4th in quarterback pressures with 42, 4th in quarterback hits with 21. This is a 40, 50 plus pressure guy per year guy. And now you don't have him. Now the Jets do save $7 million here, but there is some of that, they do go on to Denver. I believe he gets a new contract there. It's a tough loss on the field, tough loss off the field. Has only missed 1 game the last 3 seasons. So that stings. 3 games total in his career with the Jets, or 2 games total in his career with the Jets, I should say. It's unfortunate. He was a very good Jet, earned a 2nd contract. I wish they could have got more. I mean, they couldn't have got a 2024 6 this year. After 2026, like, what is this team, what is this organization even going to look like in 2026? And you give away a guy in his prime for that. So I don't love it. I'll be honest. I don't like it at all. I don't like it. But then again, it's another message to Will McDonald and Michael Clemens and guys like that. You got to step up. You got to step up. For Clemens, for McDonald, he's entering year 2. You just saw Jermaine Johnson take a leap. Let's see you take that leap. For Clemens, if he's going to get a bigger role playing the inside and outside, he's entering year 3. Enough of telling Cleveland Browns fans or fans to, shut the bleep up and all that stuff, or F you, I think he was saying. Go out there and perform. Go out there and play at a high level. Another note, too, is AVT. Jets will pick up his 5th-year option, so like to see that. AVT was excellent in 2021. When he was healthy in 2022 and 2023, which wasn't much, he was also excellent. Hopefully here in 2024, he's healthy. I agree with them picking up the 5th-year option. When he's healthy, he's arguably an all-pro at guard and tackle. And I'm happy that they're keeping him at guard, keep him at one position, let him develop there, let him roll there, and see him alongside Morgan Moses. So AVT will got his 5th-year option picked up. Now, I know as we speak, undrafted free agents are still being picked up. I'll probably have a separate episode on that either tomorrow or maybe Monday, kind of putting a bow on this draft, giving some of my final thoughts on this draft as a whole. So stay tuned for that. Other than that, that's all she wrote. Jets 2023 draft is pretty much over, and it is over other than some UDFAs. And I don't know if, maybe they find a diamond in the rough or whatever, but that's something that is really down the road. We'll have to see. As for the way this roster looks now, well, added Jordan Travis to the quarterback room. You brought in you brought in Braelon Allen and Isaiah Davis to play behind Breece Hall, compete behind Breece Hall. You go out and get Malachi Corley, exactly what this team needed, a gadget player, Yak King. You brought in hopefully your franchise left tackle in Fashanu. When you look at defensively, brought in 2 guys on defense, of course, in Jaylen Key, Mr. Irrelevant, and Qwan'tez Stiggers as a corner that will probably turn safety. So that's the way this roster looks now. Receiving core is awesome. Breece Hall, Braelon Allen is going to be a lot of fun. So I think if you're a Jet fan coming out of this draft, you've got to be really excited. I think you've got to be much more pleased with how things played out this year. I think this time last year, we were kind of not upset at the draft, but we were all questioning the draft. We were wondering what the heck the Jets were doing last year. And then we were all kind of wondering that. And here we are this year. They filled a lot of key needs. Biggest came at wide receiver and tackle. They did that in the first round and in the third round. Douglas did a really good job. He's clicked a lot of right buttons this season. He clicked a lot of right buttons over the last 3 days, although I don't agree with the JFM deal. Other guys got to step up at this point. That's kind of what it comes down to. So that'll do it for another episode of In the Trenches with Gang Green. Again, I can't thank you all enough for all the support over the last couple days. It has been awesome to see. I appreciate every single one of you. We'll have a lot more content coming your way. We've got some big things planned for this season that we'll discuss more as the year gets closer. So stay tuned for that. Can't wait for this season. It's almost already May. The draft is kind of the final, I don't know if it's the final checkpoint for the offseason, but the draft is kind of that, like you have free agency and all that stuff. The draft's like the big, like the second big event of the offseason where you have free agency, you have the draft. Now it's like, okay, you're going to have rookie mini camp, then you have mandatory mini camp in June. And then before you know it, we'll be sitting here in the middle of that 40-day period getting ready for training camp. The weather's getting warmer. Football, you can start to smell it. You can start to smell August at Florham Park. Man, I can't wait. I can't wait. If I could push a button to get me there right now, I would, but I can't. So that'll do it. Make sure to please like and subscribe as well. Always for those of you listening on YouTube. And I also appreciate all of you listening on whatever audio platform you choose. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Odyssey, Google Podcasts, whatever it is. There's so many of them. Appreciate every single one of you. So stay tuned. A lot more content coming your way. Thanks for tuning in. JETS, 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 Jets.